Ian's just messing with me.
I look over and these two are just.
Shit.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. As we begin the fourth day of our faculty development program, it is a pleasure to reflect on the enriching journey of the past 3 days. We explored a wide range of emerging AI tools and technologies that are transforming the way we learn, teach, conduct research, and innovate. From AI-powered research assistants and literature review tools to content creation, design visualization, and academic writing platforms, each session provided valuable insights and practical knowledge that can be effectively integrated into our academic and professional activities. Building upon the foundation laid over the past 3 days, we now move forward to another exciting and insightful session. On behalf of the Department of Robotics and AI of IES Engineering College, I extend a warm welcome to all the participants, faculty members, and our distinguished resource person for today's session. It is my privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker, Dr. Srijit Alatur sir. Dr. Srijit sir is a lawyer, researcher, and faculty member in Information Systems at IIM Kozhikode, where he serves as the head of Center for Digital Innovation and Transformation. He holds a PhD in e-governance from IIT Delhi, and his doctoral research received the prestigious Emerald Highly Recommended Outstanding Doctoral Research Award. His academic qualifications include an LLB, BTech in Computer Science, MTech in Software Engineering, and MBA, along with advanced credentials from Harvard Law School and the National Law School of India University. With more than 12 years of experience in academia and research, Dr. Srijit sir has established expertise in digital governance, program assessment, monitoring frameworks, and digital transformation. He has led numerous consultancy assignments and funded research projects, supervised over 15 PhD scholars, and published more than 100 scholarly works, including journal articles, conference papers, case studies, and book chapters. His multidisciplinary expertise spanning technology, law, management, and governance makes him uniquely positioned to provide valuable perspectives on the evolving digital landscape. We are honored to have him with us today and eagerly look forward to learning from his insights and experiences. On behalf of the Department of Robotics and AI, the organizing committee, and all the participants, I extend a warm welcome to Dr. Srijit sir. Sir, now the session is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And good evening, all. So I will just yes, I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So the topic was discussion is about ethical, responsible, and effective use of AI in education. So I hope most of you are aware about the AI landscape, and I would like to introduce this particular topic from the governance perspectives, because ultimately when it is coming to an adoption of technology into the organization or in an education sector, we have to have some kind of a guardrails, and it is not necessarily a technical guardrail. We should have an understanding about what will be the impact of technology adoption into the litigations or into the transformation of that particular organization or the educational institutions, and the overall ecosystem that is going to cover. So this is a broader idea that I would like to introduce this particular topic, more of an governance perspectives, that when there is an adoption of technology, whether it is in AI or whether it is in any technology that is going to get adopted, how this is going to be make a transformation, and how we have to ensure that this is going to be a fruitful transformation. That is something which we try to so if you consider this particular topic, what I plan today is that we will be discussing about basic idea. I mean, those who are not familiar with AI, I will be just giving some introductory remark about the transformation in the AI domain and what need to be considered when it is coming to an adoption of technology into education sector. And fundamental expectation, or the what we are focusing about when the AI adoption is taking place in education sector, it is not as an individual adoption or how the individual is going to use this particular adoption. Fundamentally, we should have a framework, or we should have an organization policy. So if you look about this particular idea, you can see most of the university systems or educational institutions, they will have their own AI regulations or AI guidelines. It can be starting from that you should not use AI or any kind of a term paper or any kind of an assignment submissions, or it will be ranging from different regulatory systems. So fundamentally, what is the purpose of that particular regulation? And in the absence of that particular regulation, what will be the impact in terms of transformation, whether it is actually helping the organizations as well as the stakeholder for the overall benefit. So we'll look from the teachers' perspectives as well as from all the stakeholder perspective, from the students, the institutional mechanism, from the parents, as well as from the administrative or a governance overall perspectives. So we to think about that particular risk associated, what will happen if you are not governing this particular AI. And we will also look into something called a life cycle of this particular entire AI adoption in an organization. So this is a broader idea I just provided. Try to look into this particular aspect. So if you look about AI adoption, you are open to questions at any point of time, and otherwise we will be also taking the questions towards the end of the section also. So when it is coming to AI in education, what actually we always think about, or across the globe, there are multiple approaches. Some of the institutions or organizations, it's a total ban. In education institutions or in high school level, there is a total ban of it, and they will be more concerned about mostly the whether it is going to affect your cognitive skill. So there are multiple perspectives that when there is a technology adoption. So basic expectation is that if you are able to govern this particular adoption process properly, it will be a best approach. It will be a great tool for an adoption, and it will be a transformative tool for your organization. So that is the basic assumptions that we are putting. So from a reaction perspective, a framework beat reaction perspective, we always need to develop a governance or a governance during the adoption process. So can the students use AI? It varies from organization to organization, from nations to nation. Different nation has a different perspectives about use of AI in the organization level. And when there is an adoption is taking place, for example, some organization, they are considering like research activities. It is something like it is not a thesis driven PhD work, or it is not a thesis driven or a basically it will be going to be something which is completely a social impact. So the transformation is taking place from a document driven to a social impact kind of a scenario. So this is quite important when it is coming to AI adoption. We are expecting that the AI adoption in the organization education system is ultimately going to build the skill of students rather than just knowledge creation. It is going to empower the students with a skill development aspect. So that is the basic expectations that how the organizations across the globe is trying to achieve. So if you look about this particular aspect, so most of the time we consider about different opportunities that it is going to create. So you can assume that the preparation requirement, I mean, if you want to read some particular document, you have a notebook, LLM, or other kind of a platforms that will help you to reduce this particular. You can focus on what is more important, and definitely it is going to help you. And from a teacher's perspective, you will be able to identify different opportunities and how actually the content can be delivered in a much. You will be able to comprehend most of the information. So this is something which is very interesting aspect. But the opportunities and risk is not going to solve the problem, because there are many risk associated. I mean, there are many things that need to be governed, because you can identify that the AI adoption in the education sector is going to create a high level of digital divide if it is not properly, especially. So there are many studies that is explaining about there is a concern for a digital divide. There will be concerns for the something called a privacy aspect in terms of individual adoption, and there will be multiple issues with reference to copyright laws, because people will be uploading a different document that are into the LLMs, and that will ultimately lead to some kind of a copyright issues, and you will be creating different AI-enabled tools. So fundamentally, that particular leads to different. So it is not just about an engineering education, but about a different aspect. For example, if you look about the computer education now, or maybe from a 5 years from now, most of the platforms that will be going to have non-human faculty members. The course outline or the materials for the educational content will be generated. It's already there. Will be created by the AI tools, and it will be delivered by the AI tools, maybe an AI tutor. So there will be great opportunities in terms of the personalized adoption or a personalized consultation is possible. So every student will get a one faculty member, or your AI tutor will be available, so that it will have more understanding about your unique learning style, whether you are a fast learner or whether you are a different kind of your learning style. It will going to adopt, it will understand it, and it will help you to improve your learning skill. And definitely it is going to challenge your skills, and it will try to help you to not more than a learning purpose to a implementation level. So there are multiple opportunities associated, and when there is a risk associated, definitely there is a high risk associated. Most of the time we consider it as high risk. So definitely there should be a responsible use. So that is why it is mentioned as about a most of the time we consider as a responsible as well as ethical concern. So there are many interesting aspects. For example, one simple example we can give is that metaverse adoption. Metaverse enabled gaming platforms using for especially in the managerial educations, will have a huge impact, and there will be high concern about the privacy part. There will be concerns about the other cognitive related aspect. So fundamentally, there are opportunities, risks involved when there is a lack of responsible use. I will give a simple example for it. Those who are aware about the landscape of artificial intelligence, when you say about AI adoption in education, you can see it is not just about the generative AI or LLMs are in present. Now we will have multiple agents are in place. We can create our own agents for different, whether you go for cloud or other kind of platforms, you will be in a much competitive positions to create your learning agent or a mentor for your placement mentoring activities or for your maybe a biology or chemistry or computer science. According to your specific requirement, you will be able to create different kind of agentic solutions. So there is a transitions, and it is not ending towards this particular agentic AI that is already there now. I mean, but if you look about the current transitions, we are expecting something towards towards an artificial general intelligence or something called an artificial super intelligence, or now it is coming to something called a physical AI, or more emphasis is now towards the something called a visible or voice related AI solutions. So you are not just prompting, your skill is not limited to the prompting skill, but you are expected to develop some kind of a voice related skill. So it is equally difficult when it is coming to voice AI, that how you are prompting now, because if you want to prompt, you should have a very sophisticated language, natural, because coming to current scenarios, you should have a natural language capabilities, and according to your native language competency, your prompt will be proficient. So over a period of time, there will be a competency in terms of your voice, because according to your aging pattern, you have to adjust your voice commands, and definitely it is going to understand, because the tone of your voice, the AI is going to understand whether you are angry, whether you are happy, or all these kind of a modulation capabilities are quite important when there is coming to the upcoming voice AI or other emerging AI models. So the skill differ in upcoming AI, something which we never think about. According to our aging pattern, the voice change or the modulation change, but over a period of time, that's going to be a matter. And so this is something which is very concerned, and why we are emphasizing about the regulatory part, not just about how to use this particular tool, that anyway you will be going to learn that how to use it. And when you are using it, you have to identify that what is the impact of that particular use as a personal level, as an institutional level, whether the your university or whether your academic institutions will have a negative impact of that particular use, or whether the entire domain is getting affected. A simple example is that if you see the current scenario in June 3rd, 2026, this month, Supreme Court has come up with a draft regulations for artificial intelligence in the court, because you can see many judicial judgment across the globe are defined. I mean, there are making decisions based upon the law or the or the judgment that are not available, or hallucinated judgments, hallucinated case arguments, and the advocates are adoptionists. So the idea is that there is a regulatory mechanism, artificial intelligence use in the court systems. And when it is coming to an education system, what will be your AI policy for your organization, for your institutions? What should be the AI policy from your organization perspectives, and who is going to define your AI policy, whether you're the parents, teachers, or whether you're a university, or whether your institution has a unique, or whether you will be going to adopt the global framework. So this is quite important in that particular perspective. So this kind of a, if there is no regulatory framework, and current draft regulations of Supreme Court in terms of AI adoption in the court systems itself is an indication, because when the lawyers are passing out and they are start using this particular technology, and whether this particular ethical pattern or whether there is a regulatory patterns are not associated. Because one single example is about this particular regulation. Those who already gone through this particular regulation can see that when you are not expected to predict the bail applications, or you are not expected to predict the judicial outcome. So there are multiple restrictions, I mean, in terms of, and you are expected to declare that you using AI when you are drafting a legal document. Similarly, when you are drafting or when you are preparing your project report, or when you are preparing your assignments or any kind of a academic outcome, whether the university has to impose the transparency or accountability, or what should be the structure of that particular, is quite important. So this is what actually we try to emphasize, that definitely you will develop that particular AI use skill, but when you are using that particular AI skill, you should develop the ethical responsible behavior when it is coming to your academic outcome, or when you are going to disclose your academic outcome and you are going to get your reward mechanism. So this is something which is very significant part, that regulation of this particular AI, that whether it should be come from individual, or whether it should come from the organization or the institute that you coming out. So that is basically we are expecting, and it will become more complex when new technologies or new forms of AI is going to be get adopted. And one of the important assumptions with artificial intelligence is that it is going to more than this particular technology. The artificial intelligence is not the end of the technological revolution. The artificial intelligence is going to develop, create a lot of new innovative technologies. So this is a quite important aspect. So when AI is going to generate maybe a biological weapon, just like you may be familiar with the mythos or other kind of emerging models. So the capable for even generating new technologies that is never seen in the past. So you are using AI technologies to create a new hacking tools, or you are creating AI technologies to create a new completely different, especially physics, basic science is going to be revolutionized by this particular AI technology. So the artificial intelligence is an enabler. Most of the time it is going to be an enabler. So you should know that how this particular AI should be used, especially if you are going to the security domain. AI enabled attacks is a big concern. Most of the time we teach, my area of research is AI security mostly. So we can see the transformation in AI security. It's a drastic change that is happening these days. So that particular ethical and responsible behavior is quite important in this particular phenomena. And across the globe, you can see UNESCO or European Union, there are multiple guardrails already in terms of education sector. When it is coming to education, how this particular AI should be used in the education sector, it is there. And it is not just international guidelines are available. India also have different expectations. You can see the current the technology adoption or the AI adoption in education is not just about individuals is going to use this particular technology, because it is starting right from the admission process. It is starting just like you can see the competitive examinations that are conducting, and your examination papers will be getting evaluated. OMR sheets will be getting evaluated, and there will be different weightage is going to provide based upon if you are coming from a different university systems. There might be a normalization, or there may be a new form of a ranking mechanism that will be emerging. So definitely AI is going to create new forms of evaluation systems or evaluation mechanism. So it is not just about replacing, but about adoption. I mean, assume that when in a college is taking an admission to a student, and the AI is giving a prediction about, okay, this particular student will have a probability of annual package of 75 lakhs when he is coming out, he or she is coming out from that particular college. The placement annual, maybe one candidate is going to get a 75 and the other candidate is going to 70 lakhs per annum. So definitely AI is going to provide a green signal for someone with a 75 lakhs. So there may be multiple reasons for it, because ultimately your placement is a brand name for your some of the institutions. So we will be going with someone. So there might be a bias in terms of or inclusion criteria. So it starts from the education, right from the admission process. Once you admitted into the organization or education institutions, then there will be different kind of a challenge that you will be going. I mean, in terms of the copying, or you will be cognitive offloading. You will be just assigning these particular AI tools to come out with towards the, maybe tomorrow is your submission date. You will be providing the answer script, or you will be giving the using AI tools to create your report, and you will be bypassing. I mean, you will identify your shortcuts. And there might be multiple reasons. So it become a serious concern. So there are multiple, India also we have something called a AICT or a UGC guidelines in multiple aspects. Globally, it is also there. And if you come to different universities, most of the universities, top university, I mean, we are analyzing about AI policy of top 50 universities in the globe. There is a significant difference across the university. So it is very interesting that not all the university has the same pattern, even though the technology is same, and maybe the provider, maybe OpenAI or a Cloudy or Anthropic or maybe Gemini, or the platform that you'll be going to use might be same, or the service provider might be same, but universities differ in terms of what is their AI policy. So this is a very interesting aspect that some of the top universities like Yale or Harvard or MIT, they may have a different perspectives, but when it is coming to Singapore or other Canada, their perspectives or their emphasis weightage might be different in terms of the AI adoption in the education systems. So this is going to affect, fundamentally it is going to how this particular regulation should come up. So that is something, is a very interesting area that we should explore. And very interestingly, you can see there was a study that is conducted more than 55 nations across these particular teachers, and what is their expectations or what is their perspectives about AI adoption in the education sector or in their activities, because ultimately the service provider from a teacher's perspective, or what kind of a risk they are anticipating when the AI is going to get adopted. So you can see there is a drastic difference even across the 8 top AI models like Gemini or other kind of a GPT models. There is a significant difference across the globe among the faculty members about use of AI and its impact on the students' outcome. It is also relevant that students also consider maybe someone from China or someone from Singapore may have a different perspectives about AI adoption or a use of AI in their academic activities that will be completely different. Someone from China or someone from Canada or Russia. So there is a clear difference that is existing in this particular pattern. So this is some very interesting aspect that we have to identify. So it is not a unique model. You have to have a different perspectives. Some of the you can see this particular interesting assumptions, whether it is going to benefit the AI in education, AI in education is going to create a benefit, or whether it is going to increase the risk among the education sector. It is significantly varies across the globe. So that is a very interesting aspect. So very interestingly, India is not participated is not represented in this particular study. So we are do not know or how Indian academicians or Indian academic institutions, universities, you can see the Japan and all, they have a completely different perspectives about AI adoption. So we do not know how Indian education sector or Indian academicians think about the risk or benefit with reference to AI in education sector on a day-to-day activities. So this is the opportunity for us, because we should know that what our Indian education system require, what should be our governance structure for in the education sector. So you can see in order to understand that particular, okay, what our education institutions or what our students community or what our parents are expecting when there is a technology adoption by their stakeholders or the students. Now, what is their expectations? So the teachers' expectations might be different from students' expectations or institutional expectations about AI adoption. So institutions may be considering about AR and VR. There is a great demand for metaverse platforms adoption in the education sector, especially when it is coming to supply chain and other training programs. There is a high demand for these kind of metaverse platforms. But so that is a current expectations. I mean, application of AI in education. So what kind of a technology that you have to adopt? Because fundamentally we assume that all humans are disabled because we have a limited hearing spectrum. I mean, the decibel that we will be able to hear, we cannot see the ultraviolet rays, or we have a limited visibility spectrum. Maybe a dog or a cat may have a completely different visible spectrum. So if you are using AI solutions, so it will have a capabilities of more than 26 or dimensions. We have only 5 sense, like eyesight, touch, or other kind of a 5 sense. So definitely we will have more dimensions of sensory dimensions. We will have more dimensions of or more capabilities, because the moment you are increasing your vision or your eyesight, and from 5 to 29 kind of a sensory dimension, definitely your knowledge skill will be improved. So you will be more adopting to this kind of an AI solutions, but it is not sufficient enough. Simply increasing your capabilities or your overcoming your disabilities or overcoming your sensory requirement is not sufficient enough, because ultimately what differ humans is about a cognitive skill. I mean, what is actually the cognitive skill? But if you look about most of the AI literature in the cognitive science, it is always discussing about what they try to visualize the dream of the fish, or they try to identify what might be the thought process in the crocodile. So there are many research activities about the animals and their thought process and their communication strategies. So definitely that is going to create. So how human differ, and how actually that more than the increase in this kind of a dimensions of sensing, what will be the how humans are going to get benefited, and what kind of a future skill is required when you are improving, you are adopting AI as a like a brain chip or something which is available. So this is quite interesting aspect that we have to explore. So just to summarize what we just discussed in the last half an hour. So what we just mentioned is that there is a need for AI governance in more than your ability to use that particular tool. It is very important that how you are using that particular tool. Otherwise, it is not going to be sustainable. So your ability to your awareness about the different emerging AI tools are important, but more important thing is that how competent you are into using that particular tools. Whether you are able to use it ethically, or whether you are capability to use it responsibly. And the stakeholder expectations, whether it is students, or whether it is the faculty members, or whether it is the parents, or whether it is an educational institutions, their perspectives differ from nations to nation. So there is a difference existing. So here is the gap actually, because one is that the organization has an AI policy, and the customer or the stakeholder has a particular expectations about that particular tool deliverable, and how it is going to help them, whether they want immediate success, or whether it is going to help them in developing the skill. So it is very important that the organizational regulations, whether it is the Stanford, or whether it is Oxford, or any kind of a university system, is creating an AI policy for your responsible and ethical use of artificial intelligence, whether it is actually helping the customer, the stakeholders, or the students, or the ecosystem of education in the right direction. That is quite important. And very interestingly, across the globe, you can see, apart from the AI regulations, or apart from the IT regulations, you can see a completely different AI policies. So this is a very interesting aspect. Unlike other kind of a technological technology policy, like an email use policy in your organization, there may be a policy for email usage, maybe internet use the policy might be there. For example, you may not be allowed to use connect your IoT devices to your network. So there may be multiple reasons why this particular, but when it is coming to AI policy, that might be most of the organization are in a developing phase of this particular AI policy for your organizations, and how you should develop that particular policy. If you are you also a stakeholder. I mean, it is not just the responsibility of the administrations or the university system, because ultimately you are also part of that particular ecosystem. Whether it is a student, a parent, or anyone associated is also become part of that particular ecosystems. So when you are going to develop that particular ecosystems, I mean, adoption or use of AI into the technology, AI into the education system, we always emphasize about a system thinking approach. For example, most of the time, if you should know that particular entire ecosystem. This is a classical example about what is meant by system thinking. You are observing the elephant from a holistic perspective. Otherwise, the system is not going to help. You may not be able to, the skill level may be decreasing, or the entire ecosystem is not going to help over a period of time. So what need to be done? Assume that you want to develop a policy for your organizations. So this is something which is very crucial point. Any questions or anything at this point of time? Okay. So we know the problem. There is a problem in terms of expectations, in terms of it varies from nations to nation. And there is, we do not know what kind of a technology the AI is going to come up. I mean, what kind of a technological revolution is going to come up. So the thing is that when you are going with an holistic approach, the problems are multi-faced. You can see that you have to see this particular AI adoption in is in a system point of view. You can see there are multiple risk associated with this particular AI adoption in the technology. We usually call it as a castle loop diagrams in system thinking. So the skill level or the knowledge level of the students may be going to decrease if the policy dimensions are not possible. So the technology adoption is quite important, and there are many concerns regarding the teacher burnout, whether because the kind of queries or the kind of knowledge level among the students community may be completely outperforming than the teacher who are in that particular profession for a long time. Especially if you look about cyber security and all, what was there in the almost every 3 months we have to revamp and their course outline, because the security is a completely transforming field. So there is a risk associated from an organization perspective. There is a great efficiency requirement that when there is a, for example, a university conducted examination, and you are expecting that the result will be declared in 1 week, because most of the universities who adopted AI in terms of for their evaluation purpose. So they will be more competent enough to declare their result, or they may be more competent in terms of efficiency part. So you are also expecting that your university may be going to affect. So there is a pressure on the university systems or in the education institutions from the technology adoptions if it is not adopted. And apart, it is not the case, because addiction of AI is also one of the major concern. I mean, prompt addiction, students, the cognitive, it is not just about the cognitive offloading, but most of the time, for example, we say that prompt is not a paper. So instead of, we may not be in a position to write even a one paragraph or a one particular. So we are ready to accept what actually AI is providing us. So this kind of issues are there. So fundamentally, when it is coming to AI governance or adoption of AI into the education sector, we have to assess it from the entire life cycle, right from the admission process, pre-admission process. Because if someone with an AI someone who is more proficient with an AI, and a student who do not have much exposure, maybe someone is using a $200 subscription and someone is using a free version of it. So there may be a difference in terms of their performance in a competitive examination, because they just like you are going to a training coaching center and getting into a top tier university systems. So there is a mentoring process, but does not. So there is a clear differentiation. So the students, there is a high chance that there is an exclusion is taking place at the pre-admission time itself. Maybe there is biased, or maybe it is purely based upon your because most of the time we assume we are ignoring many factors when you are admitting a particular students into the campus, and it is not just about their performance. So during the admission, before the admission process, because it is ultimately going to affect the entire outcome. So there is an AI usage at that particular admission process. During the education time, very important is about well-being, students' well-being, because the considering about a new skill required. Because what, for example, a simple example is coding. When we were doing our BTech degree, the best candidate, if you want to get into some top companies, software firms, only your coding skill is important. But now you have white coding, or maybe Cursor or any other platforms are available. So you are more concerned about what new skills are required for you. I mean, so there is a well-being concern associated with it. And very interestingly, you can see the current landscape is even you are allowed to marry the AI. You do not have to marry a human. You will be permitted legally. You are valued to marry a artificial intelligence solution. So there are multiple relationship change is also taking place. So there is a concern regarding during the education systems. This become a very serious concern, especially, and definitely the outcome that is going to create. I mean, if it is not properly regulated or a guardrail, someone who is using AI exponentially, maybe the certificate or outcome will be going to create. So definitely there are multiple aspects you have to take care of. From an institutional perspectives, or someone who is getting into the admission system, they should have a conscious effort towards this particular entire life cycle. So this is what actually we meant by the entire, the system thinking approach. We have to think about AI adoption from a system thinking perspective, how actually it is going to create. So this is something a great challenge, and it is who is responsible for creating AI policy. So it is not the responsibility of the dean or director or the managerial administrative staff responsibility. It's a combined responsibility. It is the faculty members who are actually interacting with the students who are actually using the AI tools. So fundamentally, when you are creating an AI policy for your organization, it is a joint effort. It is not a single individual effort that is going to create this kind of a scenarios. So that is something every individual or all the stakeholder in the organization should be competent enough to contribute for creating your AI policy. Then only the use of AI is going to create a responsible and ethical, and it will be going to be a competent criteria. One more important thing, organizations are readily adopting this particular AI. I will just show you. I mean, some of you may be already aware about how AI is used by these particular tools.
ഹർഷ്, നീ ഒരുപാട് മുന്നോട്ട് പോയി. എന്താ പറയുന്നത് ഋഷഭ്? ഹൈഫൈ ക്ലാസ്മേറ്റ് നോട്ട്ബുക്ക്, ടോപ്പ് ക്വാളിറ്റി പേപ്പർ. നീ ഒറ്റയ്ക്ക് ടോപ്പിലെത്തി.
How could you?
നിങ്ങളും വാ. വെറും ഇത്രയേ ഉള്ളൂ.
ക്ലാസ്മേറ്റ് നോട്ട്ബുക്സിലുണ്ട് സൂപ്പർ പേപ്പർ ക്വാളിറ്റി, പിന്നെ അഫോർഡബിളും.
红色是表示你的专注力显示得很高，
Teachers at this primary school in China
蓝色是走神了，
know exactly when someone isn't paying attention.
白色就是你可能跟网络还没有连接好。
These headbands measure each student's level of concentration. The information is then directly sent to the teacher's computer and to parents. China has big plans to become a global leader in artificial intelligence. Shanghai is being used in the classroom. For this 5th grade class, the day begins with putting on a brain wave sensing gadget. Students then practice meditating.
现在，想象我们眉心有一点柔和的光芒绽放。
The device is made in China and has 3 electrodes, 2 behind the ears and 1 on the forehead. These sensors pick up electrical signals sent by neurons in the brain. The neural data is then sent in real time to the teacher's computer. So while students are solving math problems, a teacher can quickly find out who's paying attention and who's not.
说明这段时间他是有点在那走神的。
A report is then generated that shows how well the class was paying attention. It even details each student's concentration level at 10-minute intervals. It's then sent to a chat group for parents.
就是他可以看到每个人。
So the idea is now, I mean, it was around 10 years before. So you can imagine the current competency. You will get many applications or many tools from Amazon or other platform, right? From maybe 1,000 rupees onwards. So this is something which is actually happening, I mean, in the industry. So most of the classrooms have if you consider about this particular brain data, who is actually procured, who is actually expecting for this particular brain data, you can see there are many companies who are competing to get this kind of a brain data, whether it is a Olympiad examination or whether it is a other kind of a competitive examination. It is ultimately helping the companies, or companies are more know that how this particular maybe your Olympiad examination or maybe your other competitive examination data is useful for them. So there are many marketing firms or other organization is actually running for this particular brain data. And many organization or many educational institutions using this particular brain data for a different education or activities. So the idea is that it will be helping you to create a more competitive AI tools. You will know that students are paying attention, or whether you know that students themselves adopt some of these particular brain data tools, because we know that many students are using these kind of gadgets so that they can monitor their thought process, their almost all their cognitive skill, but ultimately it will be going to help them. So more of a criteria. So the problem is that when you are going to monitor the students, or when you are going to create the automatic attendance systems, it is not it is purely an administrative mechanism, because education is not just about an administrative process. You have to consider why the student was absent on that particular day, maybe because of the healthcare reason or something. So, but if you are implementing an automatic education, attendance mechanism, then it is going to help have a completely different outcome. So this is something which is very important when it is coming to AI adoption at an organizational perspective. So the concern is that whether I should go, because if I am using, because the cognitive AI is coming up, definitely it is not much far away. It is already using in place. So when there is a cognitive AI is taking place, because you can see that particular transformation, the development in the AI technologies. So definitely there is a artificial super intelligence or a cognitive solutions are available, and you are expecting to develop your mobile apps or some kind of a mechanism so that students can perform more effectively, or organization can respond to students criteria or prevent any. So there are multiple reasons why you require, or educational institutions are running for an cognitive data. So cognitive requirement. So but when it is coming to whether it is, so there is a concern. This is the reason why we should have an AI policy in your organizations. Major reason for this particular AI adoption is that there are multiple skill level or the behavioral change that you have to monitor, because you can adopt any kind of a technology, AI, maybe traditional AI or the new generation AI techniques, natural language processing to a computer vision, or almost all kind of a technology you can adopt. But when you are adopting a technology to your organization, you should have a much understanding about whether it is going to affect in which aspect, whether it is their behavioral change is reported, or whether they are improving their cognitive skills, or whether it is going to paralyze, or whether because the time frame, adoption frame is very limited. So whether every student has the same learning curve, because within the classroom, if you are using any kind of a cognitive, we do many kind of a research, many kind of an activities that identify that you may be going to use some of these particular brain data tools, but when you are using these particular brain data tools, the student's outcome is different. Their behavioral pattern is going to be different. So their ability to come, for example, forget about cognitive data. You are just considering about your GPT or LLMs, a large language model, whether a ChatGPT or Gemini or any other platforms. After using these particular tools, the outcome is completely different for each student. Every student has a completely different kind of a outcome. So there are many studies. It is already reported that in terms of the brain, or in terms of the cognitive skill, or in terms of the other kind of a creativity aspect, or their own perception about ethics or other aspect is completely going to differ. So this is a very crucial aspect you have to identify. So what is the solution for it? So just to summarize, what we are saying is that there is a need for, it is not just about what AI tool you should use and get the outcome and be happy. That is not going to be the outcome. Fundamentally, you should consider a system thinking approach. You should look into the problem from a broader perspectives, or in a holistic perspectives. And some of these particular, and because the same technology or same AI is going to create a completely different outcome. So there is a very interesting perspective that we try to identify, is that we have to accommodate into sustainability development goals. So this is a broader guidelines. Assume that you are going to adopt the technology, and we know that the students or the faculty members or the global expectations from this particular technology is going to be completely different. So one is that the policies are different. Organizations, universities across the globe has a different policies, and stakeholder in the same university has a different expectations from a department to department. Maybe a chemistry or a physics department may be more happy with a simulation tool, but maybe a social science department may be more emphasizing about a field data or a field research. So there is a clear differentiation in terms of the what need to be done. So there is a complete diversity. The ecosystem itself is a completely in a diverse perspectives, exist or operate in a complete diverse perspectives without any rules or regulations. The rules and regulations are there, but it is not exclusively addressing the well-being of the students or well-being of the ecosystem as such. It is just like a traffic without any kind of a rules or regulations. So this is a condition that is actually undergoing. So there are multiple effort from the universities or the from the higher education sector, whether it is a CBSE or academic institutions or international bodies are into the platform. They are creating their making their effort, and most of these particular effort should be towards something called a sustainable development goals. So idea is that when you are going to develop a draft regulations or a policy for your organizations, one thing is that all the employees or all the stakeholders should be part of that particular technology policy dimension. So that is one aspect of it, and they should have an understanding about whether it is why this particular technology is going to get adopted. At what level this particular technology should get, because you can see that mythos is predominantly security aspect. but many of the globally, I mean, many there are limitations. Many organizations do not have an access to that particular methods, or there may be restrictions to use this kind of a global. I mean, many private companies or corporate, they may not be prefer to use their own AI solutions. So if your universities or your education system, you want to develop a AI policy, one criteria is that whether you should have your own AI or whether you should have a completely different, I mean, whether you are going with your open source or whether they should have other perspectives, other kind of an expectations. So the idea is that we should know that what is the unique expectations of the particular stakeholder group, what that is individual or the organizational preference, but individual or organizational preference is not the endpoint. You should have something at a global as well as the national level in terms of the guardrailing that particular use of that particular technology, because just for competitive purpose, some organization may be highly going to adopt a admission process or maybe in the training process. But at the end of the day, if it is going to create some kind of a wellness issues or some kind of a competency challenge, so that will be a great concern. So your organization policy should map with the national policy or the global policy as such. Fundamentally, we are expecting that reducing the risk at this particular point, and more than reducing the more than developing the skill of this particular students community, or more than exploring this particular criteria, the AI policy for the education sector should be more emphasizing about how this will be going to use in an ethical and responsible aspect. So there are many frameworks available. Responsible AI or ethical AI frameworks are available, globally available. Most of this particular framework is tried to emphasize that the sustainability development goals, almost all the sustainability, it is in line with the sustainability development goals, so that you can map whether this particular technology or whether this particular use of that particular technology is actually helping the stakeholders in a long term, not as a short term impact. So the idea is that you should come up with a comprehensive AI policy, so that use of AI become more ethical and more responsible, and that will ultimately help the organizations to survive for a long term. I hope I am open to the questions, and it's a very demanding field actually, how this particular AI and the use ethical and responsible behavior is going to create in the organization. Most of the organizations are driven by effectiveness, but that is not going to help the organizations to be sustainable. Yes, questions? Hello.
If anyone has any questions, you may ask now.
You can email also. Maybe you can also contact me. Most of the information is available in the website, and so that is, I am also open for any kind of discussions. Any questions?
Okay, we have a question from a participant. How is student data privacy protected when using AI?
It mostly that is, for example, if you are providing the deploying AI for attendance monitoring, most of the classroom will have 3 cameras, and it automatically detect 3 times photograph will be taken, and students attendance level or attention level is also, so students can come and leave in between, so they should be there. So there will be a clear policy document for what purpose this particular video will be used. CCTV footage will be used, whether it will be handover. Maybe there might be, as we mentioned, there are many marketing companies are running behind this particular data. maybe for an academic research activities or maybe for their other kind of perspectives. So basically, there should be a clear guideline at the organization level, so that you will be able to protect the students' privacy. And the privacy is also differ from nations to nation. India and China, we have something called organizational privacy, organizational criteria. But if you go to US and UK, mostly it is about individual privacy. If you analyze the DPDP or the GDPR guidelines, you can see that particular differentiation. I mean, what is more important in terms of the privacy. So there are cultural aspects associated in terms of the individual privacy. But definitely there should be a written policy for the organization before collecting any kind of a cognitive data. As a student or as a faculty member, as a teacher also, we use many tools, many gadgets to capture our cognitive thought process. For example, if I am working on cyber security and if I am working on a law domain, I was using some gadget and capturing my brain, thought process at whether preparing a course material for the cyber security or preparing a course material or a argument for the court proceedings require more cognitive load for me. So I am also very curious about how differ my brain's work, my thought process works. So voluntarily, I am sharing all the information to that particular gadget, and it will be stored somewhere in cloud. And definitely, we are saying we are giving some agreement like that data will not be used for a training purpose and all. But we do not know. So as an individual, also there should have some understanding about what need to be shared. But organization definitely should have a policy so that you will be able to protect the data privacy. Any other questions? Okay. So please, part of your university or your institution's AI policy development. This is also very important. Not just your skill to use that particular technology is not sufficient. The success or the sustainability of the technology depend upon how you will be able to contribute in developing that kind of a policy perspectives. That is one of the reason. Indian Supreme Court has come up with AI regulations in the judicial systems, courtrooms, and it is very, very promising. In terms of the competence, we were doing comparison between US and most of the across the globe. And if you go through that particular AI policy for the courtrooms in India, it is a very detailed in nature, and it is very, secure by design format. Yes, I hope you got benefited, and you are free to contact me at any point of time through mobile or emails. Any other questions? Okay. Team?
I hope all the queries have been addressed. So if there are no more further questions, we may now proceed to the next part. Before we conclude today's session, if anyone would like to express their views or share their key takeaways, please feel free to unmute yourself and speak.
Good evening, all.
Yes.
I'm Maria, and I found this part of the session highly insightful and engaging. It clearly explained the technical evolution of AI while effectively connecting it with practical and policy level applications. And I especially appreciate the use of visual representations and real life examples, which made complex concepts much easier to understand. Overall, the session was informative and well structured and had a meaningful impact on my learning experience. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your expertise and inspiring us to embrace AI in a manner that is ethical, transparent, and beneficial for all the learners. So, thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank
And
you.
before we conclude today's session, I request all the participants to kindly share their valuable feedback through the feedback form provided in the chat. And your feedback is important to us and will help us to improve our future programs. And kindly note that the submission of the feedback form is mandatory for attendance and certificate processing. Therefore, I request everyone to complete the feedback form before leaving the session. And once again, thank you, sir, and thank you all the participants for your active participation. And have a pleasant evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.